Right. Well, I am grateful for you ladies coming to join me this morning, and um, I'm excited for us to dive in and do this mindset series again. Um, I was just kind of recapping, but we used to run these mindset calls every day for years. We started during COVID, and it was incredible, the bonds and the connection and the growth that we all had because it was a difficult time of life, and I think it stretched all of us. And having a place to come and say, I don't, I'm trying to work out these feelings, and I don't know why I'm feeling this way necessarily, and be able to kind of shift to having an outlook that was more positive, right? In the midst of adversities and in the midst of challenges, because that's what we're gonna have, and life during COVID was really difficult, and we were isolated, and it just amplified all of those things that we tend to struggle with on a daily basis. And so um, I know that for me, intentionally changing my mindset, or not necessarily changing, but growing and improving my mindset. Um, it's something that we are in control of. And too often we let circumstances around us dictate what that actually looks like. And so I want to help you guys. I want us to be able to come together to have this growth, to have these conversations, and to decide, how we want to approach looking at life. And so I guess like my own personal story is like as a mom and as an entrepreneur, starting to think about the way um, I reacted to things in life and catch myself in that reaction, right? Was really important. And I've been through some difficult things. We all go through challenges in our life. And I remember the most pivotal thing I think for me was like when I lost my mom, realizing that through the most challenging time of my life, I had found a way subliminally, really, to kind of sing through the storm. I my mom stayed at my sister's place, and so I would go out to take her to her appointments. It was a 2.5 hour drive. I would blast music on the way home and just sing at the top of my lungs. And I never realized how, um, until afterwards, that I was singing through the storm. I would put on worship music and I would blast it and I would sing just to keep myself awake more than anything. But I look back at that period of my life and I was like, how did I get through that and not completely fall apart? Was because I was singing through the storm. So, we all face different challenges. We're all going to have difficult times. Obviously, losing my mom was probably one of the most difficult things I think anybody has to go through, to lose someone that you love so young and like all the way that it causes you to process. But it really it was the biggest growth period of my life. And I think anything that happens to us in life, we can let it take us out, we can let it make us bitter, or we can let it make us better. And I'm very grateful that my mom set that example for me, and I was raised in a home where we didn't allow the negative to take us out. And I think it's a skill that you have to constantly work on refining in life. It's a daily choice to have a positive mindset. Just like it's a daily choice to be in a relationship or to stay married and to stay in love and like all of those things, it can sound so easy, like, oh yeah, just think positive, but it actually takes a lot of work. And so the reason that I love doing mindset calls is because it guides us through personal growth and development, and it empowers you to really like take control, take captive your thoughts and shift them to seeing the good in each situation. Um, it's like that theme of rather than I have to do this today, it's I get to do this today. We can say like, oh, I have to get my kids ready or I have to take care of my house, but really we get to. And when we shift that perspective, it actually shifts our energy that I don't begrudge everything that I have to do. Um, I have chosen the mindset of looking back on life and believing that there are no mistakes. We go through different things that are challenging, um, but if we look for the lesson in everything, it actually helps us become better and grow through it. And so, I'm really excited to kind of dive into this again and to have these conversations with you. I'll tell you guys, we developed a very close-knit community because we were getting together every morning and doing our morning mindset calls. And I know that these calls will grow over time, and we are going to develop a really incredible community here. And I am grateful that each of you guys are here this morning for my first, kind of kickoff call to relaunch this. And I hope that you'll encourage other people to come and jump in because when you set the tone of your day and the intention of your day by investing in yourself, by stopping and shifting the way that you think, or it's helping you make yourself accountable to yourself to decide to look for the best in the day ahead and to commit to our business, our relationships, and all of those things by wanting to be better. So this is hopefully going to be really encouraging. It's hopefully going to give you some support and some practical tips and tools. We have read books together. We've done a book club. Some days of our morning mindset, some days we listen to motivation. But I know that when we invest into really deciding what our mindset is going to be, right? And you probably hear us talk about posture a lot too. And I think our posture stems out of our mindset. And so we are conditioned in this life, I believe. This is just like my own personal life theories here, guys, is that I believe that we're conditioned to play small and we don't step up to our potential and we don't become everything we can become. We doubt ourselves and we just don't understand how it is within our control to look at our outlook on life and to think about there's a lot of science to our mindset development, right? And so I love diving in and understanding like a little bit of psychology in a sense of like why do we think like that? And we realize that a lot of things we have been conditioned to think or believe totally accidentally, right? And it can be that we're a product of our environment and the mindset of people around us, maybe your parents, and the way you were raised. We end up having a lot of like thoughts that become what people talk about as limiting beliefs, where we don't realize that it's kind of become the way that we process through things, um, and different circumstances that we go through, right? We, once you have a challenge, it can shift the way you feel about things. I remember one of the most terrible things that I've ever had happen in my life was I actually had someone jump off a bridge and commit suicide in front of my car. An awful experience. And I got out and tried to like give him CPR because I thought he was still alive. He still had a heartbeat or he still had a pulse because the blood was still like coursing through his body. Anyways, it was a really traumatic experience. And it started to then affect me in the sense that I couldn't drive under an overpass on the highway because I literally thought someone was going to jump in front of my car. And it's like I give you that as an illustration of like something that happens and then it shifts the way that we think. And it was subliminal within me. It wasn't something that I was like, oh, well, like I was having this mental conscious thought. It was just a natural reaction um, to now the way that I was approaching those kind of situations. And the same thing happens to us in life. We get hurt by someone and then we're expecting to be hurt by other people. Or we go through loss and then we start to have fear. Our child gets sick and we start to then like fear that every little thing is going to make them sick or we're going to go through an experience like that again. And um, it can be really detrimental, and there's people that get completely taken out by that. And I'll tell you, again, this is like my personal theories about life, but I went and saw a counselor um, after that to help me be able to drive down the highway. And in some ways, it's good for us to acknowledge our thoughts on things, but in some ways, like how we need to make sure that we're coming from a perspective of like, how is this going to make me better? And not choosing to focus on the negatives. Because sometimes I think we can go into counseling in the sense that like we're going to rehash all these feelings and these thoughts, but for what's the purpose? And I think that's what we need to determine at the base of it is, is it just to like understand how we think about things or to recognize that we do think this way about something? Or is it so that we can overcome those thoughts, so that we can learn how to truly, like, I believe that we're meant to take our thoughts captive and like shift, how that response happens in our body. And when we start to think about our mindset and when we're coming from a place of saying like, hey, we're going to get on here every morning and we're going to choose to analyze the way that we think about something, but we're not just going to analyze it and hash it over and get lost in those thoughts, right? There is an element of feel the feelings, but also like for a purpose of making things improve and making things better. So, there is a lot of correlation between our thoughts and our feelings and our actions. And so we don't want to get stuck in the thought. We don't want to get stuck in the feeling. We want to make sure that we're finding a way to take action. And so that's my goal for us, diving into talking about different topics together. And so this morning, I just want to kind of give a bit of an overview of like why I think it's so important for us to intentionally shift and set our mindset and to be aware of it, right? So when we change our thoughts, we can change our life. You've probably heard that phrase before, and I believe that's 100% true. And I hope that you're excited to, realize that we can truly grow ourselves. And I love John Maxwell. I don't know if you guys have ever read or listened to him, but he is like one of my favorite personal development leadership experts. I love the way that he helped me grow and think about leadership. And I remember listening to The Five Levels of Leadership, which is one of his books. And it talks about, he just talked about how you can choose what level of a leader you want to be. And that even if you don't have a team yet, it doesn't matter whether you have anyone that you're working with or anyone to lead necessarily, but you can choose to raise the lid on your leadership. Because the way he talked about it was like, if this is the lid that you've set for your leadership, that's as much as you can possibly grow. But if you set your lid up here, you have all this area that you can improve. And so I remember it was literally me fist pumping in the air in my car, listening to that and being like, I can do this. Like, I can grow my mindset and I can become the leader that I want to be before I even have the team. And what an advantage to anyone else that I was going to work with if I made that my focus. And so I think what we think about, we bring about in life. Right. And again, you guys know that my faith is super important to me. And I think it's it's interesting how when you talk about personal development and leadership, I just got to plug my computer in. When you talk about personal development and leadership, that it is truly something that we are in charge of. Sorry. Um, so, what you think about, you bring about. And so we want to think about the things that we want to attract in our life. We want to think about the success that we want to create in our business. Um, we want to think about the positive impacts that we can make on the world. And we want to think the best in every situation, but that takes a lot of retraining of our brain. And so I think it's cool that when you look at personal development and leadership, was what I was saying, is that A lot of the truths are the truths are the truths. You can listen to Tony Robbins and John Maxwell and anyone out there, and you're going to find it's actually the same truths that get rehashed just in a different way, in a different perspective. And so hopefully, as we rehash through some of these things, it's going to help us to have these ahas and to shift our perspective, and become, better in terms of what we want to do. So really, it's an invitation for us to choose to shift, right? And so I would love for you guys to feel like, yeah, yes, I want to choose to shift my thinking and my mindset, and become the best that I can be. Because again, we're not created to play small, and we're capable of doing so much more than we think. And we doubt and second guess ourselves so much of the time. And so this is basically what we're going to do is we're going to get on here and we're going to take different topics. We're going to dive deep, whether we're talking about limiting beliefs, whether we're talking about certain personality traits, whether we're talking about character qualities that we really want to develop. Um, all of that is a choice. And so I'm excited for us to kind of get into this place. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Honestly, and I hope that you guys will be like interactive and like talk back to me because I don't want to just be preaching at people. But I love doing these mindset calls because for me, it's like I get up and it forces me to do my personal development, to glean something that I can turn around and share with you guys. And I think that we don't make enough time for it. Life is so busy and we don't often stop. And we start running away with the way that we think about things or the habits that we have, and then it's like we're halfway down the road and we realize like we could have done things a whole lot better. So I know that we can really create connections for us to, yeah, totally okay. And that's the goal of these is honestly, when I started doing these mindset calls, it was as much for my personal, like my mindset, as it is for anybody else. If nobody showed up here this morning, I was still going to just do this and record it because I need to get back into the habit of sharing what I'm learning. Because if you look at the learning pyramid, which is really interesting, maybe we'll take a day and we'll dive through that. But with the learning pyramid, it's like, if you hear something, you take it into a certain degree. If you then write it down, right? Like when I make my notes of what I want to talk about, you take it into a whole nother level. And then when you teach it, you take it into a whole different level. And so um, I want this to be an opportunity where you share what you're learning and we ask questions and we dive deep together. And so if there's an aha light bulb moment that you have, write out that phrase, type it into the chat even. It might not seem like that's important, but what I have learned, like I have notebooks and notebooks and notebooks over the years of just different point form notes. And if I read back through them, it probably didn't even make a whole lot of sense together, the way I took those notes. But I remembered that concept because I wrote it down. So, however, you can use these to your advantage, even if it's just having it on in the background while you're making your kids breakfast or you're driving to work or you're doing, your laundry or you're taking a shower, whatever. I don't care. Keep your camera off, if you need to, and just take it in. But I know that if you turn around, if the things that we talk about, right, like you could turn around and this could become your post in the morning, one light bulb moment from something that you've read. And I'll tell you, this is a challenge for me too, because I've been very quiet on social media, so to speak. And I feel like we have a lot of value to add to other people. You are an expert at something if you are 10% ahead of someone else. And the fact that all of us are taking time this morning to think about the way we think and to, think about our mindset, we're 10% ahead. We're probably actually 90% ahead of the majority of people out there who just get up, get on their way and get going through the day today. And so you can take something that stands out to you and you can go and share that. You could talk about how important it is to focus on personal development or a mindset shift that you want to have. And other people around you are going to be inspired by that. They're going to recognize that you're someone who invests in your growth. And that's attractive. You know, people want to be around people who make them feel good and who help them kind of shift their mindset focus. So we are going to kind of this week, we're going to talk a little bit about laying the foundation for having a growth mindset, right? A growth mindset versus a fixed mindset, and what that even means. Again, this was all new for me when I first started on my kind of entrepreneurial journey years ago. And I've learned so much along the way from different people. And so we'll kind of talk about the foundation of having a good mindset and then how to build confidence and build resilience, because we're going to face challenges in life, and how are we going to overcome and deal with those. We're going to talk about success strategies for life and for business, and ways that we can unlock our full potential and create lasting change, build in habits that actually are going to stick with us. So hopefully we can come together and share ideas of things and like ways that we can take action and move forward and incorporate what we're learning into the way that we operate in our life. And hopefully you guys will share your insights, because I learn equally as much from you as you could learn from me or any other personal development that I've done in the process. So I'd love to know if there's any specific challenges that you feel like you have personally faced in life, or maybe you are personally facing in life that you are working through. And maybe it's something that you'd like advice on, or maybe it's something that you've just learned in your own personal experience. But I know that we can commit to this growth process together. And I love that we get to do life together when we're in business together, and friends. And I think making time to connect, you know, we all kind of wish for that, right? We wish we had that group of girlfriends that we went out for dinner with once a week. And, it's a great idea, but life is busy. And unfortunately, it just doesn't happen. And people have become less and less social, and more isolated. And what we have when we're doing a business, and we get onto Zoom calls, is we have this community, and it can be great when it comes to building our business, but we also are people. We also have life stuff happen. And I think that when we do life together, the way that we always have with our mindset calls, we've had mornings of tears and people sharing difficult things that they're going through. We've had moments of celebration, of people just, having breakthroughs in life, and not having to go through that alone, being able to come in here and get to know each other and care about each other. So I'm excited for that. I think one of the things that we can choose to do is to think about what are our limiting beliefs? What are your fears? Okay. And even if you take it isolated to your business, if you wrote down everything that you spoke to yourself, do you have things that you would write down that are like, I can't do this. People don't want what I have. Like, what is that loop that's playing in the back of our head? Because once we acknowledge it, then we can handle it and we can change it. But sometimes we just don't even realize that that's the place that we're at, that maybe we've told ourselves we're not capable of creating success. We don't matter. We don't catch on to things easily. We're slow learners. Like, there are so many things that we just don't even realize that little voice inside of us is telling ourselves. And truly, I think that's why I'm so grateful for my faith, because I know that God created me with a purpose. I know that I'm capable of doing anything that I put my mind to, because He gives me the strength to do that. And so why am I not trying? I want to tap into the potential of who I'm created to be, and to have more of that impact on people. So I hope that you guys are excited to kind of dive into this together. And I hope you'll be able to make the time to jump on here when you can. And if you can't, that's okay too. Just know that I'm going to continue to do these every morning, and I'm going to plug in for myself. And there may be days that you can jump in, and hopefully it'll be exactly what you're needing. And I think that God's going to meet us where we are, and use us in each other's lives to bring up things that that we need to address and that we need to deal with, and also give us a place to really like become accountable, to say that we really do want to be that positive person. And I think the fact that knowing that we're all in business together as well, you know, you will be the most successful in business when you can make a positive impact on others, right? That phrase that says, people won't remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And I think when we intentionally think about how we're going to operate in life, we're going to be able to be that positive person that attracts more people, that speaks life over more people, that handles adversity well. And adversity is going to happen, whether we like it or not. Challenges are going to come. We're all going to have bad days. And it's easy to get caught up in the hype of like all the good, 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 everything's going good. But like under the surface, there's all these feelings that sit there that we do have to address and acknowledge. So, right. And I love that, Angie. That is so true, right? We get in our head and we overthink it, and we tell ourselves a story that isn't necessarily even true. And and then we start to believe this story, and the reality is something completely different. And yet we held ourselves back, and we counted ourselves out, and we didn't give ourselves the opportunity, and we prejudged, and we therefore didn't give someone else the opportunity then either, because of the way that we think about things. And so we're going to change the way we look at things, and the things we look at will change. And I'm excited for us to kind of dive in to do this, and know that it's going to impact not even just, I mean, obviously our businesses will be impacted, but I know that when I look back on my entrepreneurial journey, is like the personal growth that I've had through it has affected the way that I am a mother, the way that I am a friend, the way that I am, a business owner, and a sister, and all of the aspects of my life have been impacted. And so I'm excited for us to walk through this together and to get back into this groove. Honestly, I loved doing the morning mindset, and my kids' school schedule changed. And so we took a pause last year, and I have missed it. And I do my personal development, but I'll tell you, I'm not as accountable, or I'm not as consistent as I am when I'm doing these calls every morning, because, you can't pour from an empty cup. And so thank you for giving me the opportunity, and the additional, not pressure, but like, um, it is a little bit of pressure, right? It's like, I love that I get to do this, and pour into you guys, and you're going to equally pour into each other and pour into me. So this is just the beginning. Our calls, it'll depend on our topic, but we'll start at 8, and we'll talk for probably at least a half an hour. And then I'd love to open it up and like have you guys share how are your wheels turning, as we've kind of even just been chatting this morning. And this was really a kind of basic opening to what this is going to look like. But I hope that it's gotten you a little bit excited and thinking, yes, it's going to, absolutely. It's a reminder that we can do it. We can do anything that we put our minds to, and we can learn new skills along the way. And motivation is a powerful thing. The motivation that we create for ourselves, and we are in control. But it really is like God gives us the ability to do anything that we put our mind to. And so we're just going to decide to take our life to the next level, and to pour into each other, um, and look for ways that we can be a positive light in this world. And I think that's what's going to happen as a byproduct. So I'm going to challenge all of us to get off here and to make some sort of a post that is, a positive quote, or it's an aha for you, or even just starting a conversation around mindset. Because again, 99% of the people in your life are not getting up this morning and taking a few moments to think about this. And so, there's a lot of people that talk about the universe and all of all of that. And that's not the perspective that you'll hear me come from, because I believe that we were created with a purpose and we have the ability to step up to our own potential because we weren't created to play small. So this is just the beginning. And I hope that you guys are going to come in here as much as you can. And I'd love it if you'd also just go back and like share with the team and say, I hope that, I'm excited to dive in and do these. And hopefully we can engage more people. There's a lot of people, and the number one reason people fail in business is because of the lack of belief. And so I think we can help people work through that. And it's my favorite thing. There's some people that have the perspective and say, like, oh, this business is not for everyone, or business in general is not for everyone. I think it really can be. But I think it takes us laying the foundation of choosing to think about things differently and growing our belief level and knowing that we can do anything we put our minds to. We're capable people. We have a light to give to this world. And if we choose to show that, our businesses are going to grow in the process because people want to be around that. People want to get close to that. And when you get to help someone grow through, like, I can tell you, those of you on here, like, I've known you long enough and we have done business, and I've seen you grow in different ways already, whether it's been over the years that I've known you or whether it's been for a few short months that I've known you, you know, seeing people transform and step into the leadership that you're capable of and grow your confidence, that is the most beautiful thing. And so I want to take, there's this rule in life of like, 80% of people do 20% of the work in every situation, right? And you can probably think about that. Coworkers that you've worked with in the past that like go above and beyond. And then you've got the 80% of people would rather just do the basics. And it's 20% of people that do the work that actually makes the business progress. And so my thought process has always been that, like, I want to take the 80 percenters and turn them into 20 percenters. And I know that that shift is possible when we start with our mindset. So I think you're probably all 20 percenters because you're here, you're showing up, you're plugging in, you want to be better. Um, but it's exciting because in the process of you doing that, every single person that you encounter who may not believe in themselves, who may not think that they're capable of building a business or making a difference, you can now impact those people to believe that they can, and you can help them have that shift, and then the success will come. But we do have to have a strong mindset first. And we can choose to raise the lid of our leadership first before we even have a team. I made a lot of mistakes and I still make a lot of mistakes because we're learning in the process, right? But when I think about the first business that I joined and the first team members that I had and the first opportunity that I had for leadership, I probably failed miserably, and you can't expect to be an expert at anything until you've practiced it. And I'm by no means an expert even still. And the fact that I think I commit to being a lifelong learner is what allows me to be a good leader and to have created the success that I have. And so I know the same thing is going to happen for you guys. So this is just the beginning. Does anybody have any comments you want to share, or topics that you'd love to see us cover as we kind of dive into this? Feel free to unmute yourself and come on if there's anything that you want to share.